Thank you so much for joining us today, Kristin.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, and I was telling everybody, we just launched your Tenacity Tales feature today, issue number 24. And so it went out this morning, our e-blast, we posted about it. So hopefully we have some people join us today. We'll be saving this video so they can watch and learn about you, learn about your journey, learn about Impact Founder and the incredible work you do through Impact Founder. So just when you messaged me to hop on, I was explaining how your journey to entrepreneurship, I think, is very unique and unexpected, perhaps even. So I was starting to tell your story, but I would love if you would kind of share a little bit with everyone who might not have seen the email yet or read the article. We also have your feature up on our blog, accelerateamerica.com/blog. So please tell us about how you came in to create Impact Founder.
Yeah, I mean, my journey to entrepreneurship and my journey to build Impact Founder are both very different. I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I think I struggled a lot with my career through my 20s because I didn't really think of entrepreneurship as a potential career path, if you will.
Gotcha.
And I thought of it like business ownership, and I never really wanted to own a brick and mortar. Freedom is like one of my core values. So owning a brick and mortar would be like chaining me down. So Impact Founder was my fourth business. I'm like counting in my head. And I mean, the reason why I started it was really different than why I started all the other ones.
What were your other businesses before you started Impact Founder?
I had a coaching business for entrepreneurs, which I still have. It's actually merged into Impact Founder. I had a like grassroots small business marketing company. And then I had a consulting business for small business and nonprofits. So that was my, that was kind of what I started with. And I always loved, I loved, consulting, and I really loved marketing only because I really enjoy people. I think I'm curious about people, which kind of, ties right back into Impact Founder. Yeah. And then coaching, clearly it's just like how people work, what's interesting about that. I love that. So
that's awesome. So kind of laid the groundwork maybe. So you were familiar with the entrepreneurial sitch when you were in the situation that inspired you to create Impact Founder.
Right. So Impact Founder, at that time that I started it, I was a coach focused on like your every aspect of you as a human being. So your nutrition, your mindset, your happiness, your education, your creativity, your fitness, every single part of you as a human being. So I was working with entrepreneurs at that time, and I was in a relationship, and his business just like took off.
Wow. What did he do, Kristin?
I try not to tell his story from that perspective, just because I'm trying to honor and respect, because, but he was in like, some part of construction for homes. That's the best way I can put it. And, I protect it just because of the story that I'm telling.
Sure. Right. I was just scared. Like, I know the tech or like the startup world, in certain locations like San Francisco, it's very like can turn you up and spit you out. So I was just curious if he was like in that realm, but it's neither here nor there.
He lived in Denver, Colorado, and he just had a company that they built tech in a space where tech hadn't been applied.
Gotcha.
And within 8 months, they had about, what I understood was 40% of the market here in Denver. And it was a really rapidly growing market. So it was, if you think of construction, new construction, old construction, I mean, Denver's a growing place. And it was a massive increase for them. He couldn't provide what he promised, and he couldn't keep up with his growth. And for him, and I would say, it was probably mixed with some mental health issues. I can't really speak to that. From what I know now, I would imagine that there was some sort of, other factor that was in play there. mental health is so important for entrepreneurs. So when I say mental health, I'm not even talking about being diagnosed with a condition. I'm talking about your general well-being. I'm talking about your happiness. I'm talking about, you know, how balanced you're allowing your life to be. I'm talking about anxiety or fear. Yeah. So all those play in.
Right.
Anyway, he couldn't keep up with his growth, and he, for him, in the circumstances that he was dealing with, again, it's all inclusive. It's not just, you know, the one factor. He's a whole human being. He almost took his life. And I think, you know, for me, that was a really tough experience for me.
Definitely.
You know, and it wasn't about me, but it really hit home, and it made me think about like being a supporter of somebody who was suicidal, and I learned a lot that night.
Wow.
We didn't maintain any sort of relationship after that, and I think, you know, if you talk to people, sometimes that's normal. I mean, it's the lowest point he could go.
Wow.
And he's still alive, and I think
So that's
sold his business, you know, so that's to me perfectly fine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But through that, and then tell us how you had a couple of other experiences, or, you know, that followed that too.
Yeah. So, you know, that happened. And, you know, the hard part was that I was working with entrepreneurs about this. And here I am in a relationship with a man and he was dealing with a lot of it. So the irony there is not lost on me. But
I think it was just, maybe you're just meant to be in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think that there's a lot of things like that happen around Impact Founder. That makes sense. So, yeah, you know, I kept moving on with my life, and almost exactly a year later, give or take, August, it was September, and then the next time was August of the next year. In 2015, I'd heard about 3 deaths of founders under the age of 32. 2 died by suicide, and 1 died in his sleep.
Wow.
So being someone who was a coach working with entrepreneurs, I think at that moment I was like, what can I do that's more than the one-on-one? Because one-on-one, when I'm coaching with someone, their mindset set will shift, like a lot of things change, and I have the capacity to work with them to help. I was just trying to think of the maximum amount of people that I could reach through any sort of medium to help them think differently, to maybe bring this issue to light. And that's what had me start Impact Founder. And I first started as a photography exhibit.
Oh, really? That was that was the first piece of it? Get out of here. I didn't know that. I know you mentioned in your Tenacity Tales that was one of your, a triumph for you, you went rogue, I think you said, to get that exhibit going. So tell me more about that.
So the idea in August happened, and then September, it was almost a whole year from the 2014, the experience I had with my ex-boyfriend. I was actually speaking at an event when he was having the suicidal thoughts. And the event where I launched Impact Founder was the same event, and it's Denver Startup Week. That event here in Colorado is really taken off. So at that point, there were 10,000 people in attendance. Now there's about 19,000.
Wow.
And I was working with the committees, and we had a plan, and we were so excited to be a part of Base Camp, which is the main hub for entrepreneurship during the event. And I, about a week before the event, I got either a call or an email. I don't remember, but it went something sort of like, the sponsors, we really think Denver Startup Week is, and this is, by the way, we have a great relationship now. So when I tell this story, it's not from, I love that event. And I did that regardless. But they were like, we think Denver Startup Week is about celebrating entrepreneurship, not about the depressing things, which was really tough to hear that.
Sure.
I at that point had 37, 20 by 30 photos printed. I had an exhibit ready to go. We had pictures and interviews with all these people in a matter of 6 weeks, which is a really, really fast turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it was just a photo thing. It wasn't a company.
Gotcha.
But, I luckily I have some really incredible people in my life in Denver, and they kind of stuck their neck out, and the people that they knew stuck their neck out, and it just ended up being this really beautiful thing where we went completely rogue at a location that hosted a lot of events that week. So we had about 7,000 people come through the exhibit. Right. Yeah. And that's why I launched it that week, because I knew that eyes would be on it.
Right. I mean, you were on to something. So was it just to start with an exhibit to highlight those struggles? I mean, one thing that we see a lot too at Accelerate America is, and that we talk to, is entrepreneurship is very lonely. Like, you feel like it all depends on you, that you're an island, and that people, even, the people coach, don't understand anything. Sometimes it can feel like, and
Yeah.
So there's this like wonderful, like sexy aspect to it, and yet the reality is much more nuanced and intense than you can ever imagine. And so were you just looking to have the exhibit, and or were you kind of like, oh, maybe this could be something, I'll just kind of see?
It was both.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I knew that, I think I knew that the conversation was important to have.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I didn't know how well it would be received.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that, that happened right before we launched was tough.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, not a lot of people were talking about like depression, entrepreneurship. I mean, there was one study out there.
This was what year was this again, Kristin?
2015.
Okay. Yeah, you're so right on that. Mm-hmm.
And Brad Feld, who's a co-founder of Techstars, who founded Foundry Group and a lot of other companies. Mm-hmm. He's a tech entrepreneur and investor in Boulder, Colorado. He had been speaking about it pretty candidly for a while. Okay. His own personal struggles with obsessive compulsive disorder and depression, and like really open about it, which is rare. But if you've made it and you're an investor, you may ostracize some people, but it's not as high of a risk as someone who's just starting out to talk about their anxiety, their depression, their concerns, their fears.
I am.
So it wasn't very common at the time. And I think I just knew there was a need. It was like this knowing. And I talk about that, like sort of what you said, like you were supposed to be in a relationship with this person at that time. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's really special about Impact Founder, besides, the fact that like, it's small enough where it's a family, I guess I would say, but it's large enough where people are part of the family that I don't even know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I think is really special is the serendipitous moments. Those like moments that like, clearly this is something that was supposed to kind of come out of me. It like flow through me. One of my best friends now was the best friend of the gentleman who died in his sleep.
Oh man.
And I didn't know him.
Wow.
I didn't know these people that inspired me to start Impact Founder, and now I'm connected to 2/3 of their loved ones. Right. And like that's so cool.
Yeah, that's fun, for sure. So tell us about Impact Founder. So I know you do coaching, you have the podcast. So do you primarily focus on coaching? Does the podcast, so tell us a little bit about the structure and how everything works with Impact Founder. Yeah, it's structured a little bit differently. I think we consider ourselves a media company with a solution. Okay. And the reason why is, at one point there was, if we're telling these stories, like it would be great if there was
a solution
Yeah.
to problems.
Yeah.
And so we have one component we built that is the solution is we have coaches. We have group coaching. We're launching a group coaching program October 1st.
Nice.
We have individual coaching. And then the media side is, it's not like a funnel for coaching. They stand on their own. The media side, we tell stories through podcasts. The photos still exist. They're just a higher cost to produce them. So we handpick how we produce the photo stories.
Mm-hmm.
And, we no longer have exhibits. We have a couple up, if people kind of ask for them. When we go to events or we participate in events, when that used to happen before COVID.
Right.
We always bring pictures. So the gallery exhibit, how it started, is somehow always intertwined. It's not the main thing we do. It's not really scalable. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So if somebody's watching today or is reading about Impact Founder and they have a friend who is a small business owner, or they're an entrepreneur, and how would they get started with Impact Founder?
Like, how would they get involved with us?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like,
if you're an entrepreneur and you just kind of feel like you keep hitting the same level, like you can't get past a certain point in your business and it's just like bumping up against that over and over again, we have coaches that can help you sort of surpass that. If you just need a sounding board and someone who gets it, and to introduce different ways of dealing with your own isolation being an entrepreneur, we have coaches to support you in that. So as far as that part of being an entrepreneur is concerned, hands down. The stories are going through a major shift because we do seasons. So we do seasonal stories. So we launch our podcasts in seasons. And we've been doing that for a while, but they're usually connected to events. So you can always send us your story. We're restructuring what that looks like right now, as are many entrepreneurs out there. Pivot,
right?
Yeah, and I think we're really interested in learning about those pivots. So if you just had a massive pivot, like, we interviewed someone in May who has a farm, and they were always working with restaurants. It was like local produce to restaurants, and then obviously restaurants were shut down. So they pivoted to being, I think they ended up working with individuals. So they're like, have a CSA all of a sudden. So it's like they pivoted a little. I have restaurants who started becoming grocery stores. Right. Grocery stores weren't being able to fulfill on needs. Right. It's just really cool to like learn those stories. Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
So we're, there's a shift there, but I think the shift is we're really interested in companies who kind of came up against that wall and then saw an opportunity.
Have you experienced an uptick in I don't want to say emotional distress, or just like in people reaching out or seeking coaching or guidance in the past few months? Because as you mentioned, COVID has completely changed the game for literally every single human being on the planet, let alone small business owners.
Just like everybody else, we had a major crash. But then we did have an uptick again with coaching clients. We also have a massive, Mike is actually my producer, so hey there, friend. We have a lot of emails coming in of people who want to tell their stories. And I think it's just people want that publicity right now. So that's it too. Again, like I said in the beginning, Denver and Boulder and just Colorado in general, the community here is incredible. So we've had sponsors come in for the podcast. I think when I think about how Impact Founder is doing through all this, we went through the same crash. We started to rethink what was important. At the end of the day, this company was built for these times, and
excuse me.
And we're going through those times the same as everybody else, even though we're built for it. And, the stories are what's really happening out there with entrepreneurs, and people are really dealing with some super hard times. We saw it as an opportunity to launch a group coaching program to bring the cost down for people to participate.
Right.
They saw the opportunity for, for people to get the resources they need through our partners. So we keep the energy going forward that we already had.
Gotcha. And so with the podcast each week that you tell a different story through the podcast, and tell us the specific.
I hate that Mike's listening right now and I want to talk.
And then tell us where you can find it and just search your podcast. Like I have my little podcast app on my iPhone. Do I just search for Impact Founder there? Tell me the goods on the podcast.
On all of the channels. So, we're on iTunes. Yeah, you're listening. Yeah. Why don't you tell us where to find it, buddy? Just kidding. So yeah, I mean, you can Google Impact Founder. It's called the Founder Confessionals podcast. I like it. I'm here. Mike. My battery just flashed at me. Of course. That's where you can find it. So Founder Confessionals by Impact Founder. That may or may not be changing. Again, we're going through a little bit of a pivot of our own. So you can find it there. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find it.
Perfect. The Entrepreneur's Confessional, did you say?
Founder Confessionals by Impact Founder.
By Impact Founder. Awesome. And what I also saw is you also have a book.
I do have a book.
Which I think is incredible. And you also have a review from Seth Godin of the book, which is incredible because I'm a big Seth Godin fan. And it's available on Amazon, everybody. So go to Amazon, shop it, and you just search Impact Founder. And it's inspirational stories of entrepreneurs who risk everything for what they believe in. So I would love to have you talk a little bit about the book. Was it the exhibit photos? And tell us your book journey, because I just think that's so awesome.
The book is the first 2 years of stories. And I think if we kind of talk about what we said before, where through building Impact Founder, it's like all of these serendipitous moments come together at the right time, which I also believe is happening right now. And I had a producer, producer, sorry. See, Mike is there and I keep thinking I had a publisher reach out to me, and she's someone who helps people self-publish. So technically it's self-published, but we worked together and she wanted to publish my book. So and it was, again, at like the right time. So it was 2 years of stories. They're short stories. They're very similar to our podcast. We also have photos from a couple different years. So you can actually see in the book, as a clear entrepreneur myself, I in the first couple of years, I was really working through what is this and what does it look like, and the pivots, and the like every year at Denver Startup Week, I would use that experience to test a product and see if the process worked, and all of that, so I can apply it to other things. So some of the pictures are more casual, some are like super professional photos, and it's just got that really nice texture of all of these stories from both those years.
So do you take the pictures, or do you have a camera crew with you, like Beyonce style, documenting everything you're doing?
I mean, I wouldn't say it that way, but I have Beyonce style.
Love it.
Yeah. So I have so many amazing photographers over the years that we've worked with, and I love that because it gives our look. We still have our brand, which is these photos, but our look and feel has more texture to it. It's not just the same over and over and over again. And I believe that that's really important for evolution and growth.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So everybody buy the book, Impact Founder, on Amazon, reviewed by Seth Godin. It's incredible.
I forget about that sometimes.
Yeah. Did you take his alt MBA? Is that how you got to, like, was it the publisher? Oh my gosh. Is he your uncle?
No, no, he's not my uncle.
Don't divulge the secrets.
It's such an honor. I don't talk about it very often. I mean, I think it's something that I forget about. You know, I'll talk about that sometimes. I'll kind of leave you with this like accomplishment versus achievement, or sort of achievement and accomplishment versus fulfillment is what I mean. I felt very accomplished for like a couple days when I found out he was endorsing it, when I finished my book. But I think if I always go back to, you know, what does that mean, and sort of what am I committed to? It's the book, the stories, the coaching fulfills on why I started Impact Founder in the first place. It was to reach people I didn't know.
Right.
The book does that.
Right.
Having Seth endorsing it, awesome, right?
Right.
But it's just like allows more people to feel like they're just not alone in this.
Right.
Yeah, because it's a really lonely journey sometimes.
Right. Definitely. It sure can be. So I think that's so needed and wonderful that you guys are doing. So I know you mentioned a little bit in your Tenacity Tales is like what's next for Impact Founder, but can you talk a little bit more about that here? Like what's your vision for I know you're talking about launching group coaching August 1st. So that's, you know, next 3 months. Like what's next year? What's 5 years for Impact Founder, Kristin?
Oh, there she goes.
World
okay, so
domination.
We're launching October 1st. We can push that back a little.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I always hesitate to say what it's going to look like, because if I knew it would look like it does today, I wouldn't have had that in the vision. So much of building Impact Founder is like these pieces coming together and the serendipitous moments that have built it into what it is. The vision that I would have is right now, I feel like the past 4 or so months, I feel like I have, it's fallen apart in some way. And I don't mean the way that you would think it's completely, but it's like there's been this falling apart, which I know a lot of people can really understand. The falling apart wasn't the pieces crumbling, it was the readjustment. How do we do this? What does it look like? And then remembering we're actually just fine how we are. What I see happening right now that is a little bit different is that we have direction. There's things falling into place where there was a lot of dissonance before. There was a lot of sort of going against the current. There's not a lot of that right now. And I see that in the next year being like seamlessly moving. And as any founder would know, there's a moment where you know whether or not you should be the one anymore. And removing myself from a lot of that is what will allow it to continue to move. So I've removed myself from a lot of the production, a lot of the coaching.
Right.
And it was a really tough decision. But I think in the end, that's what will help Impact Founder actually continue to grow. You know, I see like the Huffington Post and I see like what I think Impact Founder can be. I see, you know, Forbes, and I think we're like the younger version of what people really want to know about business. So what I see in 5 years, I mean, it's taken me 5 to build this like steady, consistent brand. And it is a slow build. A media company like this is not a fast build.
Right.
And I'm here for the full journey. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that a little vision with the serendipity.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's like such a great attitude and perspective to have, though, because there are so many people that are just trying to hang on and like steer, and you just have to kind of sometimes you have no control. I mean, in this, you know, it can be an illusion, right? That what we think is going to be, and it will be it, but it will look probably a lot different, and that's okay. And so just they have Impact Founder to help them along the way.
We have some really cool partnerships that tend to come in when I let go.
Wow.
The more I let go, and not completely let go, because if I completely let go, then it's just
Right.
fizzles, right? But you have to let go of the attachments and
Right.
like the, like if someone told me that right now I'd be doing what I was doing, like I said before, but even there's external factors here at play. They like even a month ago, I probably would have punched him in the throat. Not really, because I'm not violent, but it just didn't make sense. Or like 5 months ago, it wouldn't have made sense to me. So,
Yeah.
And letting go, is a massive process. Like it
Right.
didn't feel good. It was painful, and I cried a lot. It's a big decision to make. But every time I do it, no matter which way I let go, something grows out of it, and it's because I'm not attached to the outcome.
I think that's so poignant. And I think for any small business owner, it's hard to let things go. You feel like you have to do everything and have to have your hands in everything. And you do find yourself having to do everything a lot of times at the beginning. And then once you have control, like how do you let go? I can't imagine how painful that is and how scary that is. And
oh man.
But I think that's so amazing that every time you've done it, there have been things that have fallen into a beautiful place. And so I think that's just like a really good story for owners and entrepreneurs to take with them today too, is to the crying and the stress is normal, and it's part of that process, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means it's part of the process.
Yeah. And I think it's knowing when to move ahead with like full force, and knowing when it's time to like kind of just step back and let things fall as they may, and let the dust settle. And like a good example of that is when I found the other person to host the exhibit in 2015, it wasn't time to fall back and let the dust settle. It was time to like put the tentacles out and make shit happen. And then, right now, it's kind of a little bit of both. It's having boundaries and expectations and asking for what I need, being very clear with what works for me, and then falling away and letting things see what happens, like letting it all fall into place.
Right.
But it's not forcing anything. And if anything needs forcing, it's when I know it's like, it's just working through in a way that allows you to detach as much as possible. And it's been hell the last 4 months. Like I can't even pretend, but I wouldn't, because if I can't say that, then why would someone come on my podcast and say that?
True. True. Yeah.
Very open these days.
Yeah, that's right. That's the best way to be,
Yeah.
for sure. People crave that authenticity. They want to know, like, that's your human nature and the humanness of us all, right? So I think that's great. So we'll wrap up, but I kind of want to know, what do you want small business owners and entrepreneurs to know, maybe in general or about Impact Founder before? What do you want to leave people with today?
I think we've talked a lot about Impact Founder. So you know where to get us. It's at Impact Founder everywhere. So I'll just say that. You know where to get the book already. And if you don't, listen back to where we started, on Amazon. On Amazon. That's all pretty much implied. Follow us, do those things, also implied. But I think, one of the things that early on, if I had listened to all the people who didn't understand my vision, or who tried to apply standard business to a very non-standard business. Also, media is a strange place right now. And so people try to apply like basic business to a media company, and they're like, wow. And I got a lot of that feedback, and there was information in there that was helpful. So I listened to that, and then I threw the rest away. I had a lot of meetings with people that I very much respected, and building this the first 3 years was drudgery, and my credit was bad. And, I'm not going to pretend that stuff didn't happen. But at the end of the day, when you're in those spaces and you're getting that nasty or negative or, feedback, you have to kind of recalibrate yourself. Nobody's going to do that for you. If you can find your your commitment, which is what I call it. Some people call it true north. Some people call it centering. Some people call that flow. There's a lot of different ways to say that, but if you can kind of drop in to remember why you're there in the first place, if that's not important to you, listen to them and stop.
Mm-hmm.
If that's important to you, then just recalibrate. Just remember your commitment. Remember why you're there. There are dark, dark times building this thing. It's not traditional. And the thing that kept me coming back to it was that commitment that I had, that I made when I started it. Mm-hmm. That I wanted entrepreneurs to feel like they weren't alone. I didn't want people to end up dead because of their stress and mental health conditions or concerns or fear and anxiety of building a company. So when I got back there, after someone said no, I could keep moving ahead. And again, it's not pushing and forging. It's, this is my commitment. Does this align with it? Yes, no.
Right. I love that. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for being featured, joining us in Tenacity Tales. It's an honor to share the story of Impact Founder and yourself and your journey. Again, this is Kristin Darga, founder of Impact Founder, this month's Tenacity Tales feature. You can learn more about Kristin and Impact Founder on the Accelerate America blog, accelerateamerica.com/blog. There are featured article up there now. We also are posting on Instagram and Facebook. You can find Impact Founder, impactfounder.com, the book on Amazon, the podcast as well. They're all over the place. Check them out. They are amazing, doing amazing, true work. Kristin, you started. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. It's like such an honor to come back home to like a Michigan-based thing.
Yay! I love that. Michigan, we're all together.
Right.
Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.